gets involved within these strategies. In this microcity strategy is usually like a structural planner, because the creation of a city is a complex subject. So we need a planner or an expert that is at the top, and that educates people about these subjects, and it educates people how they can participate in these projects and help them understand why we do the things that we do. Because if we're just gonna do stuff and tell them, okay, this is gonna be good, trust me, then they might not really be that enthusiastic about it. So it's very important to educate people on that. And obviously, there's things about funding that needs that's a question, like who's going to fund everything. But more on that a little bit later. But what's most important within the microcity is the actual then development or the realization of these microcities, which will be like a mix of people will realize this kind of projects, different stakeholders. Like, for example, there need to be certain rules within that microcity. There need to be questions asked, like where will the shops go? Who will take care of the public space? Is it a few people that take care of it, or is it everyone within that microcity? What is the identity that you want to have in that microcity, and so on and so forth. If you then take a look at the next one, the urban playgrounds, with creating these structures where people can add their own functions into it. We also need some sort of expert, architect or engineer who designs these structures, because there is things like structural integrity, flexibility, water management, energy, and so on and so forth, that just the common mass doesn't really know about that. So you need an engineer or architect to do it. And then about the funding of the project, we need either like government funding or private stakeholders that are interested in the projects, and they can then sort of like rent different units that exist within this structure to people, and that way it's not just we put money into it but we don't get anything out of it. So it can be economically, it can be an interesting an interesting business idea. And then the common mass themselves, they fill in the structure itself. And looking at the modern Renaissance as well, with like the revaluation of underused space, there is also a combination of professionals and about like a combination of professionals and common masses, but this really focuses on the common mass and giving the common mass space for creative expression, and using that creative expression to revitalize certain areas. It's for the people, by the people. That's an aspect of the modern Renaissance. And all of this, of course, happens with as much collaboration between experts and the common mass as possible. And on the last two pages, we quickly went through the different cities, and we had a look at what locations could be interesting for us to implement this strategy on. So to see like, okay, would this strategy actually work? Is there are there spaces that we can use for this strategy? And yes, there are. In Brussels, for example, there is like already a street. You can see here on the map in red. There's already a street that gets claimed by the inhabitants of that street. So only the people that live and work on that street, they have access to that street, and they create their own functions in it. But it's underdeveloped right now, and it looks a little bit sketchy if you're there in real life. So to turn these kind of spaces, this draw space, into something that is a very valuable public space for the people that live around it could be very interesting. In Belgium. Here in Vietnam, we have the Saigon One Tower. The people in Vietnam probably know this project very well. But it's an abandoned building because of a lack of funding. And this is an example of a potential to create a micro city within a building, because the structure is already there, but it's not filled in yet. there's one core at the center, and then around it nothing is filled in yet. So you can do with it whatever you want, and to create this kind of like urban playground strategy to implement it in this building, that would be very cool. Here we have an abandoned fire station, which isn't being used anymore. But as you can see on the pictures, it looks it has some sort of modular design, which can also allow for different functions to be added into the building. And then here at the end, we have another example of a building that was abandoned because of an earthquake, and it's not the structural integrity can be guaranteed anymore. So it's not used anymore, but as you can see, it also has some sort of like modularity to it. If you can see it in the facade, and if we can sort of turn this building into a structure where people can then add their own functions into it, then this building could really become something important for this area. And that was our strategy. I hope it was clear to everyone.
It was very clear, Martin, I think. Let me say something to thank you. I think you set the bar very, very high for your competitors. This was a very clear presentation, very complete. And I really like the fact that you gave very direct solutions or suggestions to implement it in the cities all over the world. And you also draw our attention to the positive effect that it could have. So I'm really in favor of your strategy, actually. I can see the positive effect it can have on the neighborhoods. And I'm very happy that you explained dross spaces, because that was the first thing that drew my attention. And it's now very clear what dross spaces are, and that they can be a real asset to the city if used correctly or with creativity. Is there one of the other members of the funding committee that wants to add to this?
Yeah, let me say something. It was very interesting and the good visualization strategies, and try to show some like logical process on phase 5 phase is really interesting. Yeah, very good. I have just a quick question. You guys say like local micro city, right?
Yes.
So I am wondering the scale. What is the scale of a micro? The terms of you say like micro city, right? So is there some like a scale sense?
Yeah. What's interesting about it is that the scale can be very different from city to city, from micro city to micro city. So, for example, it can be the scale of one building, but it can also be the scale of a smaller neighborhood. I don't know where the limit would be on how big it can be, but it can definitely be like on the scale of one building. Yeah. Or like one public square, for example, and if you add like all the functions around one public square, that can also be one micro city. Yeah.
So it means like you try to define the micro means like a single open space or a single building or something, right?
Yeah, that is possible, but it can also be a combination of different open spaces and different buildings. But that's very dependent on the context, and that's why we didn't clearly define a scale.
Mm-hmm. Is there some like I think your team is like local economy something, right? Team 8.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Can you a little bit more clarify what is the relationship between your micro city and the economic understanding? Something like how we can boost the local economy based on your actually proposal. Is there any some link?
Now what we wanted to do is actually yeah, we were talking about like these public spaces and about the microcity, and just a big part of the microcity itself is the economic factors of it, and like vitalizing a public space, for example, can be very easily done by like these economic functions to it. Like, for example, we drew here, we have the shops, we have the bars, we have bike repairs, which all can boost this local economy. So we really want to use the local economy and the creativity to yeah, to really vitalize these areas. So those are, we see those as tools. We see economy and creativity as tools within these strategies.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I have a question. Who initiates all these initiatives, and do you see it as individual initiatives, or are they all also combined or made visible as a sort of a structure or a general layer that is in the city?
I think with like maybe urban playgrounds, it's a little more obvious because yeah, there is literal structures there, and you can like on different locations you can add like the same sort of structures. And this, I don't necessarily know who would initiate it, but this specific strategy would really go from like more expert level, more like design technical, to then more so it would be more top down, and then at the end like people would really be able to add their own functions to it. So it would be more like yeah, the yeah, I don't necessarily know. Yeah, exactly. And with like modern Renaissance, for example, it's more like bottom up. So it's really like I wrote it down as well in the who participates. It's like an exercise could be to walk around the part of the city with your with people and just look for these kind of spaces. Like, oh, here's an empty wall. It could be interesting to do something with this. Oh, I know there's a building over here that has some open space next to it or on a rooftop or something. So it's very dependent on each sub-strategy who initiates it. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there somebody else who has questions for this team? Or is it up to the next team to start a competition? Tuan, can you organize this? Can you take the lead in this, or Sale? Sure.
Yeah. I think if there is no actually comment, I think we can move to next team, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well done, guy.
Okay.
So I think we can move to the group, the second group, number 7. So I just want to remind my own professor that we send the link for the evaluation. So I hope that all of the professor can access the link and scoring following the category there, and send back to us, and we can do for the second group. Okay.
Okay, Tuan, we have received the link. So we score each group and send the document to you.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, when you
on
finish
the
one
Google
group and
Drive,
you
we
just
can
click
just mark.
send, and after that for the second one submit, and after that you make the new group. So it's okay. We also can have the summary for all.
So
Okay,
number one is the higher score. Number 5 is the lower score. Is that correct?
Good question, Shaw. I was thinking it the other way around, that 5 was the highest score and 1 was the lowest
Yes.
score. So we have to be clear
Yes.
on this.
Oh yeah, it should be very
Yes.
clear. Yes.
Very clear. 5, of course. 5 is bigger. 5 is the highest. 1 is the lowest.
I already marked opposite, kind of opposite ways, but I will change now. Okay, I didn't solve
Yes.
it yet.
Okay. Sorry to not announce this
Got it.
one. 5 is the biggest. Okay. Thank you,
Okay, got it.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So just give the submit when you finish the one group, and after that we can have the scoring, and after that we also can go with the new group. Okay,
Okay,
so
clear.
welcome to the second group, group number 7.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess no more time to wait. Let's start. Okay. So hi, we're group Our City, the 7th group, and my name is Kristaps, and we tackled the part of a daily life in hospitality. And here you can see a collage of our daily life and hospitality in the cities, and how we came to our name. We came from a Spanish saying, which is Mi casa su casa, which translates to my home is your home. And looking at cities, we thought that cities are more than just places where you sleep and work. They are cities. Cities are places where we live. So cities should be our home, and it's a part of life and culture and foods and everything. So it's a big melting pot of life. So of course nothing is perfect, but that's life. And so looking at some of the problems of like daily life and hospitality, we saw that usually there's less contact with your neighbors. I think that's a big problem. No knowledge of others' culture. Now that cities are becoming more diverse, lack of appropriation of public space for interaction. So a lot of spaces are empty, and a lot of underused places and buildings.
Sorry, your microphone is still on. Sorry, Kristaps, to interrupt.
Yeah.
Your microphone is still on.
Okay.
Maybe it's better.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So yeah, and and a lot of underused places and buildings with no heritage value, and sometimes those are left to rot because there are no heritage values, so no need to improve them. So discussing a lot of problems and going along with a lot of steps, we worked together, and we decided that this strategy would be the best one for it. It's placemaking through adaptive reuse as a collaborative social process. So it's a mouthful, but stay with me, I will explain. And so it's divided in main 3 parts. And the first one is placemaking, and it's just a strategy to make a place our own, or to expand it, to make a place feel like a home, the Mi Casa Su Casa. And yeah, a lot of cities, they have places just could be where could we make a lot more than just an empty space. And the second one is adaptive reuse, and I think all of us know this. This is a big part nowadays, and just to reuse and redesign abandoned monuments, buildings, spaces. And main thing is about the buildings without heritage value, and they always are left, I think, the last ones to look after, and that's also is a good part because there are no restrictions to them, so you can let your imagination fly. And the last one is the biggest one. I think the major part in our strategy is the collaborative social process. So the participation of neighborhood community and the inhabitants, and to make the community the experts, because they live there and they know it. So and to come from the big part is to work with the community, and they know the best. They know what they want, and it's a good place, I guess, to start and to end also. So there are needs and desires for a place and our strategy. So a place to meet new people, to meet your neighbors, to place to relax, limit transport, a place for children to play, and place for elderly to feel comfortable, and bring light to local talent, save local history, and so on and so on. There's a lot of things that we want and desire, and this here you can see maybe like an evolution step where it doesn't mean that we need to get to the end part. We can stop somewhere in the middle and maybe even somewhere at the start. So let's start small, like community cleanups, picnics, workshops, and then we go on. New infrastructure, street foods, places, and after that maybe like bigger parts, maybe like building museums or big events and even global. And yeah, and we must remind ourselves to not only use this place for our own good, but to give to the public. We are all in the city. We're just like one big co-living family. So we need to give back to the public space, and in main part is the hospitality. So be kind to everyone, not only the people you know. So sometimes your best friend is a stranger. So in the future, one step leads to the best friend of your life. And so here is a pretty good like a diagram how we decided how the strategy would be evolved. So everything starts with a neighborhood committee. So these are the main people, the activists, the group that are going to push through and give the idea to everybody else, the locals that need it. And so these people, maybe it could be from one people to a group of people, and they find the local critical location where they think they need the introduction of the strategy. And then they work with the locals. They discuss with them, talk with them, brainstorm how to improve the place. And so after that, the strategy starts to make an idea. So there's create a vision for the place, make a program, make a cool place to be together with the neighborhood. And that step leads to the step 5, which is the local project. So it starts to take place, and it evolves step by step, as you see here, like small steps and baby steps, and that could lead to maybe a global event if you want. But the big problem is money. Of course, money is big problem. So, but that doesn't mean the project should stop. So look for a temporary inexpensive solution. Like I said, community cleanups, just like community get-togethers or some small workshops, hobby meetups. And after that, everything is now like social. So you can social media and everything. You can create a buzz and maybe get some investors or donations and help from the government. So all the inside the businesses and local people will help. And then there's the next step, which is in the question mark, because it's an official project. And that doesn't mean that we don't need to be like an official project, because when the official project, it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of money and needed. So maybe it's better to keep the soul with the local project. So that's a place for questions. And finding the location. So we looked at places in Vietnam and Brussels, the critical places, as you can see, like riversides and canal sides, which are just there to use. And here are maybe some ideas how to visualize it, how could like the places be transformed to meet like the needs of the people and to use it. So under the bridges are a big problem, inner yards, the alleyways, you can see parking lots also is like nowadays if we can try to move parking underground, we can move them underground and have a huge place where to use as anything. And also in Brussels we have even on our places you can see there's just like empty spaces, dumps where like materials are dumped, and community made like without like this is like an old place, you can make a community park, green spaces, maybe some old stores that are unused to use for exhibition centers, local arts and craftsmen. Some cars nowadays that I think cars are slowly going in the bigger cities. Maybe start looking at places and you use them in another multifunctional spaces. And along the canals also where we looked at, it was like just a walkway, nothing more. So we introduce something more. Also, yeah, parking spots is a big empty space, I guess, sometimes. And here are the examples around the world that already are made. So and the first is in the project in Brazil. The neighbors began using the space way before the project and made their own furniture and used the place before the construction and the renovation started. Here's in Hasselt, also in Belgium. Here, it was an incubator for youth, founded by Youth Initiative. So the youth just started this, and it led one to another to make this amazing place. This is, I think, a very controversial, infamous place, the Caracas in Venezuela. This was an old office building, I think, where people squatted. So a lot of families there just took over, I guess, and lived there. But maybe not seeing as a bad thing, but looking so that the community can transform a place for their own, and they don't need help from, I think, the bigger governments or investors. They can do it themselves. The question is how good they can without like help from others. Here is also under the bridges. You can see that the local community and students led to a architecturally designed like outdoor living space. Here is in Myanmar project, very good example of how people just clean up the area, and you can see a big trash of alleyway, and people clean up the area. And after that, they got funding from the government to extend the project into a bigger network of back alleyways, and it looks pretty different than they used to. And here in Ghent in Belgium, they transformed the streets and get rid of the transport and roll out in green areas and communicate, as you can see, bringing the community together. And yeah, and this leads to our way and places. How we see the strategy to river sidewalks, to involve and co-work with the community. So just working with the community and letting the community take the initiative, maybe just push on them a little bit, using like playgrounds, encourage participation of all age groups, and not only kids playing sports. I also have seen elderly sports, and I think in the Spanish I saw that there's a game where elderly play in the park. So to have like sometimes, yeah, even parks sometimes are just an empty place where only there's some trees and a track where you can walk, but maybe pushing more, something community can build up on it and make their park more cool and and the place where you want to go. And also, yeah, the main one is the cities, the centers, I guess, the roofs, the facades, and there's like empty walls as you can use as a canvas, and then green rooftops you can transform a rooftop. And sometimes, yeah, even the last floors are empty and a place where a magic can happen. And yeah, and to help build, just bring in life to the some of the forgotten places in the city. And yeah, and that's our strategy, and that's it. So you have any questions?
Kristaps and Team 7, an impressive presentation and impressive work. You've explained really well what this strategy is about and how it can grow from a small scale initiative to something bigger. I was wondering, the strategy seems to focus primarily on the local community. Yeah? How do you think it will work in terms of, well, in the tourism point of view? Will it also be beneficial for global tourism once we can travel again?
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing of like, I think, building the community. So first, in my opinion, like you definitely can like make investor can make some investments and build like a museum sort of in the local community. But I think it would be really cool that the community makes those spaces. So yeah, like if there's a local place where they are just a forgotten place, they can build, the community can build up to a place where it would become a point in Google Maps where you can see like a cool place where you can visit and see like a local art or some place where it's a bit more like with soul. It's like a community. The community builds the soul of the place, and to have some sort of like I guess soul connection to the place where I guess you could visit the local community, and they have like yeah, an amazing, I guess, place where you can go and talk to the locals, and they are very I guess welcoming, and they welcome you in.
So tourists will find it anyway then, because of the quality.
Yeah, yeah, I think like in nowadays you can see also like in Google Maps, like you go to a new city, you see what's around, and you say, wow, that looks cool, and you go there. And it's, I think in these days of world, it's a pretty good way to.
Thank you, Kristaps. I don't know if anyone else has a question.
Yes, a question. So will the community also be organized as a community, or will they be individuals that start with an intervention or with an activity, or will they also be organized?
Well, I think here a big play plays the neighborhood committee. So it's always good to have like a backbone of the project. So those the people who are really all the way in. So sometimes like neighborhood people, they have jobs and works, and not all the time they can have like a pastime project or some sort of, but to have like a really motivated maybe people who can push the people, and to usually where those people would try to introduce more and more to the all of the neighborhood people.
Perhaps a very difficult question that you didn't that you didn't discuss yet, but where can I as a funder help you to realize your strategy?
I think even I think it's not even about like the money part. even I think just providing maybe materials and because now also I think a lot of buzzes all around reuse and recycled materials. So maybe just like bring a like material so that people can build furniture. Maybe some you can donate some art, maybe some even paints or anything. Maybe gardening, like plants and to have like a committee. It's like even it's like where people like a group, a Facebook group, even sort of. You can have like a place where you can, I guess, donate. I think resources for the community.
Thank you. That was really clear.
Okay. All right.
So I have a very quick question. Okay,
Yeah.
looks very good. And your city, our city. Can you really explain more why your title has, or why our city or something?
Mm-hmm. So
The title.
yeah.
Title is actually identity, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's yeah, cities can be scary, big places where like you think you go there and it's like a big it's government now, but it's very formal. And I think people we should start to make your city our city and my city is your city, just to make like a more informal, I think, city, so you feel more at home and not to have that's I'm feeling like I'm in the wrong place or something. So to have like a city that's my city, but also it's your city. So, but in this case we're a lot, so it's our city, but it's also your city.
Okay, thank you.
Second, if nobody has some extra questions, perhaps we can go to team 6 then.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. Can you see my screen?
Yes, clearly.
Okay,
And we
great.
hear you clearly.
Perfect. So we are team 6 and we discussed public space and nature this week together with the professor. And maybe first, before I start explaining our strategies, we tried focusing on different types of nature, different types of public space. So we came to 3 more general spaces that we discussed, and that was the street, the park or square, and the nature, more like a beach or a forest, so more wild and less made by man. So by discussing those 3 elements, we found different aspects that were important for us. And then for looking at the strategies, we tried to see what was important for each location, and we found some interesting aspects, like for example, safety was a very big topic that we discussed. So providing a safe space for recreational use was the first strategy that we developed. The second one is creating a clean and hygienic space, and this started with a focus on COVID-19, but when we looked into it, there was much more to it, like waste management and clean air. And then the third strategy was making transportation options more efficient. So this was more related to the street, but also on how you would transport yourself to go to a park, a forest, but also a store, and it could go very broad, this topic. And then we decided on where we wanted to focus on more for our proposal, and we chose the second strategy, so creating clean and hygienic spaces, because this is a very general topic that we can definitely adapt to many locations. So then we tried focusing on how can we create those clean and hygienic spaces, and we divided the strategy into 4 subcategories. So focusing on COVID-19 and general hygiene, density control, now with the social distancing, waste management, and clean air. So for COVID-19 and general hygiene, we thought it would be interesting to design public bathrooms or community bathrooms, because nowadays a lot of the restaurants maybe are closed. You're going to a city or to a park for recreational use, and we need those clean spaces to wash your hands, go to the toilet. So that also refers to the second part. And then what also became more important now is screening areas where you can get disinfected or where your temperature is measured. And for density control, very obviously of the social distancing, so allowing enough space for people to visit the place. That also goes with crowd management, so making sure that not too many people are together in a dense place. And obviously disinfecting your hands and wearing the mask maybe also can be a good aspect to add. Then waste management. A lot of cities are filled by waste, so we need to provide the public bins and provide options where people can drop off their waste, so it is possible for us to recycle it and to reuse maybe some materials. But we also thought about who would maintain these, so it might be interesting to look for volunteers to help, and the local government also has a role in that. And then for clean air, we can look at reducing the surface temperature in cities, which also relates to reducing the heat island effect. And then also the carbon dioxide in the air, which we should reduce. And this kind of directly links to the transport options that we also discussed in another strategy, because that can play a big role on the impact we have by the ways we transport ourselves. Then where can we locate these strategies? We went back to the 3 main locations that we discussed before we developed our strategy. So we looked at the park, where it is mainly social distancing, but also disinfecting cabinets like this one can help to provide safety in these spaces. The beach also, again, social distancing. This is an example of a safety post at the beach in Belgium, where there's also a public toilet included. It provides safety, an emergency post, also the hand washing. Then for a forest, the social distancing again, public bins, which is also obviously important in the park and the beach. And then cleaning the area, because a lot of people throw away their trash in the forest on a walk if there are not any public bins nearby. And then for the street, it's also the social distancing, maybe waiting in front of a store. The public bins, this is a new initiative where you can wash your hands in public. And then the surface temperature is could be related to the parking space on streets. So making green parking spaces could provide better air quality, more shading that allows the heat to be lower than if it would be just concrete or asphalt. And then who will benefit from these spaces? We made some drawings to show these. The local residents, it's local tourism, and who wouldn't love to live in a clean space, a healthy space. And it's kind of quality of life that it represents. And it's the same for local workers, people who maybe don't live in the space, but go to work there every day. And then tourists, the people that don't visit very often, you want them to come back, you want them to have a good time, and a clean and a healthy space is a very big part. Then also local passengers, people who walk through the area, people who visit family. And then another very important part is the environment that we cannot forget. So looking at the waste and recycling and looking at the air quality has a big impact on greens. And a clean city and a clean space can let the greens flourish more. Then the benefits of a clean space. We made this diagram. I think it kind of speaks for itself. The quality of life, less waste, better recycling, also equity and inclusivity to include everyone, make everyone feel safe in the space. Resilience is also a very important part. If the city is already ready for the cleanness and the hygiene and cases like the COVID-19 now, we can bounce back more easily. And then we included a small case study, and it was talking about that a well-being is feeling good and functioning well. It's sports, it's outdoor activities, and this all happens when you have a clean space. It's more comfortable, it's more peaceful, you feel safe. So it all relates to each other. What I maybe also should discuss is that the scale is very important for all these aspects. So each strategy can be adapted to the location. And then how will this work? So we look at the weather of the location, the available resources, also making sure that we're not just designing now for local tourism and COVID-19, but we also should look at the future. What available space do we have to create options to place public bins? And we should also take into account that we are changing habits of people. So we should make sure that it's in a good way. And then in general, the most important part, the location, where are we putting these strategies? How can we develop them? How can we design them? And what is most interesting for the place that we are working in? And then to end, we put some case studies to show different existing or designs or actually built examples that could have a positive impact on designing for clean and healthy cities. So this is a type of public market that was designed in order to sanitize hands, allow social distance. It's replaceable. So it's very easy to adapt to the location. Another example is a park that is made to maintain social distance. So I think you can see it, the walking paths only allow one person at a time. And at the intersections, the height difference makes sure that you do not get in contact with the people, but there's still the visual connection. And there is local spots for people to have some alone time and enjoy the park. Then also in China, we saw some more modern options like sterilizing and sanitizing the place with robots, with UV light, which for me in Belgium sounds a bit new to use a robot, but it's definitely a cool idea to also avoid contact with people. And then we also saw an example in Korea. They're very strict on everything now regarding COVID-19, the test centers, the control when you come out of quarantine. And then for waste, there's an example where you can drop your waste in these public, it's not really a bin, but it's a collection for the waste. So it's easier to recycle because nowadays you don't want people dividing the trash. So this is a very good alternative. Also more related to the air quality and the transport. An example from Paris, where they designed a place where they removed parking space and promoted cycling and walking. And this way, less private cars would be on the street and also less emissions. And then a very new idea that came from An from Vietnam. And it's a material that is able to store carbon dioxide, and afterwards it can be released using heat, and you can reuse the panels. So next to very busy roads, it's interesting to maybe capture the bad air and then release it to use it in another way. An example from an island in Korea where they try to be carbon free by 2030. And they use that by using renewable energy, electric cars and wind power plants around the island. And the last example are various case studies and projects from Jan Geel. So this is safety at train station or tram stations, bus stations, improving the cycling, and then the general for safety for all, improving the cycling, and just general projects that can improve the city life and improve safety and comfort when looking at transportation and mobility. So that is all for our presentation around public space and nature. I hope you found it interesting.
Thank you very much. This was again a very clear and very straightforward and coherent presentation. I think I have the same question as to the previous group. What can I, as a funder, do to help you? Where do you want me to add value to your project?
A very important thing at first is, I think, helping to raise awareness for the fact that we need a clean space. I think a lot of people still throw their trash out without caring about it. So raising awareness, maybe a kind of campaign to promote this would be very interesting. And then now the biggest funding would be needed for maybe improving the hygiene and the cleanliness of the city during this time of COVID. So providing those community and public bathrooms and those clean spaces for people to feel comfortable. Small initiatives like a cabinet or a public toilet when the restaurants are closed, and making sure that those spaces are clean and well maintained is very important. Also similar for the trash and the public bins. When I walk through a forest here in Belgium, there are a lot of locations where there is a little bench to sit and have something to drink or to eat, but there is no bin nearby. And the problem is that a lot of maybe local governments don't have the resources to maintain and clean those bins. So I think that is a very, very big spot where we would need to be funded. And then also for the air quality and the traffic, maybe redesigning streets to allow more social distancing, to allow those hand washing or disinfecting.
Of course, as a funder, I can help you. I can provide some money to kickstart this project, but after a while, it will have to be self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. Is there a way that you can also guarantee that this project will continue after it's kickstarted and will be fun when the funds are raised and invested?
I think it definitely depends on how the projects are developed, but an initiative like the one I showed here for the recycling option, this would never need people to maintain the public bins and clean them out. So this could be, for example, a more initiative that stands on its own. And then, like I discussed in the beginning, there is obviously a need for maybe volunteers, like here, people cleaning the forests, but I think that already exists and maybe should be more well organized. Also providing the public transports, the public bathrooms. It could provide jobs to other people to help maintain and clean those.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Isabel and team. Sorry, I will start my video. Thank you for this clear presentation. I'm really intrigued to see such an original and pressing and urgent topic addressed in a strategy. And something is worrying me, though. You know, a lot of these COVID measures have led to cluttering spaces. We see signs everywhere that we should keep distance, and mm-hmm. how can you deal with that as a designer, and how do you work with that within your strategy? I can imagine that you do not want more clutter in these spaces with all new tools and facilities that you're going to add.
No, maybe I should share my screen again because it stopped sharing. It's a difficult question, I think, also because there's a lot of new tools, but also a lot of available space that comes with the social distancing and the crowd management. But we have the problem of the waiting lines that exists. I think now, during the time of COVID, it's very difficult to very quickly design a lot of space for these social distancing measures. Yeah, I guess
You're right. It reminds me,
question.
yeah, it is a difficult question, but it reminds me of how initially for handicapped people, we started to design ramps and we started to design special elements for people with special needs. Now, maybe this idea of cleanliness and hygiene is something that we should incorporate intrinsically in our designs and make spaces that are intrinsically clean and safe for everyone. And I think that is the real design challenge here, not to come up with solutions that repair spaces. Of course, we need to do that as well, but also think of elements that how we can make this universal and as an idea integrated into our designs from the start. Yeah, it's really inspiring work, Isabel and Team 6. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I also think for now we focused more on small scale strategies to work in the cities like they exist now. So quick answers to the solutions, but definitely also providing like a community or a public bathroom can still be a space where you go after the COVID-19. And like many people, when I see in a series or in a movie, see them shaking hands, I still think, oh, we're not supposed to do that. So I think even after COVID, there will still be this need for clean and hygienic spaces.
But I think that's actually just a good thing about your presentation. It's so very direct. It highlights an issue that is really pressing, and in that way we come up with more lasting solutions, more integrated solutions. As Elle said, after a while it will become logical that we integrate toilets, for instance, or washing basins. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate very tight schedule. I love your cartoon. Yeah, looks like very
by the Vietnamese
cute and
people.
funny and very direct message by the actually simple illustration. I love it. Anyway, good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Team 5.
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you can all hear me and see our Marmo board.
Yes, Netta, we can hear you and we can see your Miro board. You can start. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Well, hello, my name is Netta. I'm a Belgian student and I will be representing Team 5. We are the team of Heritage, International and Cultural Crew, which forms TIC. We chose to develop the strategy, the Artist Corridor. I will give a brief explanation about what the strategy is about, and then I will dive deeper into how we developed it, and then show you the steps we created to apply the strategy to a place. Well, the Artist Corridor is like a place where local artists have a space to express themselves within their traditional art forms. So this program would be placed ideally in an iconic site that is currently out of use. It should be a place to exchange creativity, to inspire people, to learn about heritage, give a space to artists, and amaze their visitors. Workshops could be held to educate people about these local art forms or these local intangible heritage forms. We could involve them in the creative process. Even open exhibitions would give any artists the chance to display their work. So the main goal of our strategy, the Art Corridor, is actually to exchange creativity and to educate people about the tangible and the non-tangible heritage in a certain place. So when we take a look at how we started our brainstorm, we had like way too many ideas and stuff that had to do with heritage and identity, and we tried to pick 3 of the most important things for us. The first one was to develop and to preserve the intangible and the traditional crafts and activities. By this we mean traditional foods, traditional arts, traditional music, and traditional crafts, which we think define a big part of the identity of a place. And this could be done with a few different options. There could be workshops that could be held to educate people. There could be exhibitions by people. There could be places where people could express themselves. And we should also educate, of course, about these traditional crafts. And as you can see, also a lot of different ways of bringing this into a direct thing are possible. And the second thing that we found also very important was to use the technology that is nowadays available to help and export this culture. And this could also be done in like super many ways, since there are so many options nowadays. And yeah, as you can see, we have like a map that we could locate the historic buildings. There could be scans about historic buildings and 3D views. There could be an app that gives people extra information or an extra layer, but more will be told about that later. And then the third thing that was really important for us was the hospitality for everyone. It's really important for us to create an open and inviting space to meet up, to relax, to go into conversation, but also that the space would be available for everyone to visit. So inclusivity would be something to keep in the back of our minds. Then, to make it more clear how to apply our strategy, we decided to split it up into steps, because we thought this might be more useful for someone later trying to use our strategy on a certain place. So step 1 would be, of course, to find the location for the Art Corridor. Well, according to us, this location should be a place where people come together and exchange ideas. Ideally, this would be a place that contributes to the identity of the area. With this, we mean that this would be like a really typical area which would like immediately be linked to the place. Like, for example, in Belgium, we have a lot of old buildings standing free and monuments, but they're not really used anymore, or they don't have a use nowadays anymore. So these buildings have a long history and they define the place, but then they could also gain this new layer. But if we then take a look at Vietnam, for example, there aren't this many historical buildings, since the history of the city was built up way differently than it was in Belgium. But they have these pavements which are really iconic to the place, and everything happens on there. So maybe it's an idea for them to use these pavements. And I think that's also then representing this identity of the space. Then, of course, it would be really useful to make use of maps which indicate where that these historical buildings are, or where these open spaces which could be used are located. And we also added some examples. For example, this is a place in Birmingham, which was an old factory building, which was also something that is really iconic in the landscape. And they decided to convert it into creative art spaces. So by just keeping the outer structure and changing the inner structure and the things inside, they created a really interesting space where you can see these different layers of history, and still this creative extra layer is added. And then, of course, also like these pavements or streets could be used. The Art Corridor could be something permanent, but it could also be a temporary event. So also streets which are really busy normally could be used, but they could be closed down for, let's say, a weekend, for example, and then something with temporary structures could be created. So then, of course, step 2 is to modify the location. Since we are using a location which was not used for this purpose before, there should be some structures added to create more interesting and useful spaces. So these adjustments in this place should always be non-destructive, since we are working in an iconic place which might later want to be restored into its original form, or people might want to use it for different things. So we think it's important to not do damage to the space. For example, also site rescaling could be used, like you can see in this image. When you would do this at a pavement and you see there's like a lot of excess space here, we could keep like the pedestrian function on this pavement, but we could like take a little piece of it and use this piece as this multifunctional creative space. But also, if we are using unused space, we could add some temporary structures which could add to this new functionality. And we added some examples of these temporary structures. You can be as creative with those as you can imagine. There's a really interesting article about them on Art Daily, so we added the link. If anyone's interested, you can go to our Miro board and look it up. But yeah, as you can see, there are like so many options for this, and a lot of fun new atmospheres can be created. Step 3 would be to involve our local artists, which is, I think, the most important step even, because these people will keep the place running and will make sure there will be life in this place. They are the persons that will bring the creativity to this place and inspire other people. So we could try to reach them through these new social media platforms, but of course there are like so many other ways of contacting them and engaging them in this kind of project, but we didn't went too deep into this. And just for fun, we added some local artists of our own places, as you can see. And even this example, which I found really interesting, could be used in the Art Corridor. These are just architecture students, and they would be giving sketch classes to other people. So every creative person could be used in this space to exchange fun things. Step 4 would to be adding a digital conservative layer. With this, we would like to give visitors extra information about the place, about the artists they are seeing, about the food that might be available, and so on. In this way, we want them to learn more about the heritage and the identity of the area. And of course, we want to raise awareness of the heritage and like educate people about how conservation could be done for these places. And this could be also anything, but for example, this could be an app where you, when you're walking through this art corridor, you could like get pop-ups of stuff that's happening. You could click on it, you could get some extra information. And yeah, we think it would be really interesting to add some kind of digital layer to this. And we added some things that already exist, because nowadays technology is so developed already that we think almost anything is possible. So yeah. Then step 5 would be to add local foods, music, and places to relax. We think this is really important, because this way you get a chance to reflect on your experience and exchange creative ideas with other people which are experiencing this in this place. This also adds another layer of culture to the place, because you could use local foods for this place and local music, or maybe even it doesn't have to be local, but it adds another layer of identity and interest, we think. This could be done in so many ways also. There could be food trucks which just come by for a few days, but these could also be fixed cafes next to the place or anything like this. And we also think it's really important to create indoor as well as outdoor spaces. So when it's good weather, people can enjoy it, but also maybe if the weather is not that great, people can still enjoy their experiences, but inside. And there's a lot of variety and people can choose where they want to stay. For example, we added some food festivals from around the world because they are already happening, and something similar but on a smaller scale could be added onto our art corridor. For example, in Belgium, there's a food truck festival which happens every year in a lot of different places with a lot of different foods. There is a street food market in Transitional Spaces and a food festival in Singapore, which happens every year with like so much diversity of foods and cultures that get exchanged this way. Step 6 would be not to forget to pay attention to inclusivity, because we think it's very important that this place would be accessible by everyone. Everyone should be able to enjoy the creative exchange. This includes children, elderly, locals, tourists, wheelchair users, everyone really. So we think it's really important to keep the word universal design in the back of our minds. We also added some really interesting projects which really work with universal design as well. For example, the Enabling Village in Singapore, which is accessible by everyone through the ramps and the stairs, but not in such a way that it's just like a ramp which is added on somewhere. It's like completely integrated into structure, which makes it way more interesting. And there is, of course, also the Library for the Blind and the Visually Impaired in Mexico City, which makes use of like structures which people can touch to guide them around somewhere. So that's really interesting to look into as well. And of course, enough resting places or places to sit for elderly when they're walking around. Like all of this stuff should be in the back of our minds when designing this space. And then step 7 would be to go international and to connect with art corridors all over the world. We think this is also a really important step because this is a way that exchange is possible. Cultures get shared around all of the world. People can learn from each other. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that you could do. So we really want to, press against this this step as well, and because also that is like the goal of this week as well, so we really wanted to include it here. And here are also some more examples of spaces that are kind of like an art corridor in itself already, but then even some are more bottom up than something big organized by some government. By the way, we think that it could be both. It could be something really bottom up by local artists, just starting it up and trying to do this in an available space, but it could as well be a big thing organized by a lot of people and in that way include everyone. And of course, step 8, maybe the most important one would be to enjoy a creative and an inclusive cultural exchange. And that was our presentation, our strategy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, looks that looks quite interesting, and yeah, it's great. Much more kind of very well focused on kind of like tourism actually concept, and is well matched, and also like something resilient concept, I guess. So artist quarter. Hey, can you a little bit zoom in for the second pages kind of flow chart?
This?
No, previous
one.
one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the main, it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Let me see my bigger.
I can zoom in on the different steps of the, this is better visual.
Yeah, heritage concept. So I have a question for the kind of usually like heritage is one of very kind of attraction for the tourism, right? but there is also like, as else actually have questioned before, the heritage, environment, and also resident can get the benefit. Also, there is like some like really kind of big interruption for their private life. Something there is always a conflict, you know. So in maybe some of the resident can get the benefit because there is a more opportunity for the local economy. However, you know, somebody want to just keep their actually private life. So how we can get the balance and also reflect on your strategy that for the issues.
Yeah, I think it is the hardest issue that you have with this, indeed, like finding the balance between providing something to attract people, but also still, yeah, provide the quiet that locals might need. But I think that this project could also be something that doesn't necessarily have to be super big and attract a lot of tourists. It can also be, I think it can be very beneficial for the locals as well, in that way that we started about thinking as this as a local strategy to attract people from their own region and to get outside and to get to know more about these local artists, about their own heritage and learn them more about it. So in that way, we think that it can be very beneficial for the locals. But to really stop like hordes of tourists from coming, I don't know, I would try to keep the initiatives more smaller. If you're doing this in an area where there is like a lot of people living, I would keep it very local. But if you have the opportunity to do it in an area which is not that close to people living there or having their daily lives, it could be something bigger and it could be something that attracts more people. And in that way, create more exchange.
Yeah.
I think maybe two elements that can be a bit researched in this strategy further in order to connect it more with, you know, like local community, citizens and so on. One is where would it happen, in what kind of neighborhoods? I like the big question, where does this strategy find place in an urban setting? Does it work in every typology of an urban setting or just some typologies of an urban setting, like more dense neighborhoods instead of the central business district and so on? So the where question is something that will connect to the neighborhood. And the second thing is also to try and imagine more from the people who need making space in the city, instead of to focus on what will be produced, is maybe to focus on the processes of crafts itself, because that's often the problem in cities. It's always like the use of space. What kind of spaces are needed for certain crafts to happen, to be made? Sometimes they will need bigger spaces for certain machinery or tools. Other people will need places to dry things or to bake things. So like when you focus more on the processes of the crafts of a certain city, if the element of the process of production is more integrated in the strategy, it will become, I think, maybe more valuable for the citizens, how things are made, and what kind of infrastructure is needed. That shifts the eyes of the project onto the people who are making instead of the people who are visiting or buying.
Yeah, the second remark that you're making now is something that we definitely discussed also, yes, because we also found that it was very important to just give artists space where they can work, because indeed this is the most important step in like creating something. So yeah, as you can see, it was added here as well, but like you said, it could maybe be worked on out a bit further, yeah.
But of course you need a certain context, and like a global strategy is like it's difficult to distillate the you know, like for something that works in terms of the process of making for every city, that's difficult to distillate. So I think once you go into a specific context, I think that specific context will feed you and into the process of making. But that's that's for the next step, of course. Like this is really a really good approach already. Very inspiring, very needed also in cities and spaces for crafts and making. And then the next step would be in a specific context, in a specific urban typology, to see how those processes can be realized, how the making can be organized.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, thanks. Really great presentation.
Yes, I think the asset of your presentation really also is the step-by-step approach. So you give a sort of a manual of how to implement your strategy, and that manual can be refined, as Ken said, place by place. And I think that's really nice in your presentation. I have one silly question. What does the name of your team stand for? Or perhaps I missed it in your presentation.
We chose for the name THIC, which is like it's a word that the youth is using nowadays, but we find it really funny to connect it then to also the topic we were working on. So we chose to
heritage.
Just so now it is a team of heritage and international cultural crew.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah, actually, I found something inside your presentation. The first thing is the heritage, including the tangible and intangible aspect, and why you focus on only the intangible. Because the identity of the city is not only based on the intangible, something you feeling.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But sorry.
Okay, and the second question is, I please move on the step 3 on your My Robots. And yes, I so you propose the solution is 6 space and a multifunctional space. And do you have any policies or suggestions, policy to expand the pavement space for the specific case in Vietnam? Because most of the people or the shops owner or the home owner want to use the pavement for their own purpose. Yeah. So the local government also difficult to deal with that situation. So do you have any idea for the expand the pavement of the street?
Yeah, on that last topic, I think it would be the best idea to talk to these local people who are selling their stuff there now and to like import them into the project. If they are the people like selling the local foods, like implement them in the project and make their stuff something that also can be seen by doing this. And yeah, so this way they would benefit from an event like this happening also very greatly. So I think it could be a good cooperation between all of the parties, and this way it would benefit everybody. And about the thing you said that we were focusing about the intangible part, that's just because we chose to, but we definitely know that the tangible part is like a big thing of heritage of an area. And that's also why we mentioned in the beginning that choosing a place for this strategy should be a space which links this area directly to its identity. Like I said, for example, which if you would do it in Belgium, like do it in these old buildings if they're available. If you do it in Vietnam, like do it on these pavements which are like so such a big thing for the identity of that space. So that's how we wanted to interpret it into the project. And also, of course, by this digital layer added to it, there could be like a lot of information about the heritage in the area given. through this platform, and in that way also the tangible heritage would be included. But of course there are so many other ways or things that you could do with this stuff, like the options are endless, so we tried to focus on this strategy.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Netta. I think we leave you to it and we can go to the next group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
loud
Maxime,
and clear.
we can hear you. And now we can
And
see
you
your
s-
screen as well. Yes, we can see you
Okay,
moving around
nice.
in Miro. Good luck.
So okay, welcome everyone. I'm Maxime, and today I will be representing Team 4. Our team is called Vocal for Local, and that's because we were working around the theme of local economy and creativity. Our strategy is called Localize, and the name is in two parts. It's localized, as you would say it, because we really want to focus on what's already in the city and how can we bring it to daylight. Because the second part of ICE means that local economy and definitely local creativity should be seen and is very important for a city and its identity. We started from local economy and creativity, and from here we made some ambitions for ourselves. So from our analyses and our discussions, we came that a riverside is very common ground within our group, and we thought it was like really a nice place. So we wanted to bring more life to the water side. And then we also wanted to work on the revival of small enterprises and local economy. And also because of our general team, make local talents stand out. Then we worked out some actions for these ambitions and developed kind of a program that we wanted to bring into our strategy to make everything complete. So what is Localize? It's a project that wants to focus on what's already there and also like bring out or give opportunities to local. I think somebody is ringing my doorbell. And to bring out more of the local talent. I think it's very important for us that it's an open platform that we make, so people can actually see what is done there, and also the people who are being busy there feel like they are seen and that they are appreciated. We believe that our strategy needs three important ingredients, or out of our discussions, we had three things that were very nice to us. The first thing was next to a canal, linear green, because we see it as a place to relax, and often the places next to a canal are used for passing by. So we thought it would be nice to, if you want to use this place to like bike or walk, it should be very important that it is a good place, a place where you like to be, place with fresh air and feel connected to nature, so you can like escape the busyness of the city. Then we also wanted to focus on the cultural hotspot, because the cultural hotspot gives a collective space, and like as you can see in the image, it should be also very transparent, because that is something very important to us. And like already mentioned before, it should be an open platform where people can just walk in, walk out, go perform, go watch everything that is happening right there. And then because we felt like these things are things that already exist a lot, we wanted to like charge up the entire thing with something to link the economy to the local talents or local craftsmen, and that is the local currency. So we wanted to like invest more in local businesses, mapping the enterprises that are already there, and creating opportunities for young people who maybe have a good idea for a business, and so make it easier for them to develop that business. Then to what question? We have our sketch from in the beginning, but focused more on our 3 ingredients. So the first thing is the linear green, which we see as the body of our strategy, because we wanted to like implement the project, but we need like strong base. And when we look to the places like Vietnam, South Korea, Brussels, these places are often places that are used, but even with very low quality infrastructure. So it shows that people like to be there, but it can be better. And then it would also be stronger for the entire project. And therefore, we like to propose a linear park along the canal, so people can escape the bustle life of the streets and go there for very different activities. So when we have the body, we also need a heart for the project. And that's where we wanted to create a cultural hotspot. So a place that is very dense with culture, things, local craftsmen, local artists, everything that you can imagine. Because we believe that there is a lot of talent and culture in small corners of the city, but we want to bring this together to actually have like a beating culture heart for our strategy. And then we have the local currency, because when we have like the body and the heart of our strategy, we see the currency as some type of veins throughout the project, because next to this center, it will also be a place where people will like to start growing and do their own thing. So when it's like a place with the little boxes, and the currency that we want to implement, we see it as a city loyalty card. So when you go to this place and you buy local, you can use the card and you earn points for buying local and investing and believing in the local workers and the local artists. And that's how you charge up your card with points. And these points can be used after to when the city organizes an event, then it's your turn to benefit from believing in them. So you can get discounts, for example, on local food markets or so. So like really we want to invest in the economy, and so they go shop with each other and buy each other to really strengthen this local vibe and local thing. Where, as I mentioned, we want to activate again the riverside. And I think this image shows why we chose this place. Because as I said before, the infrastructure is not very good, but when the sun comes out, people are running and biking next to the canal, but we believe that it can be in a way better environment than is seen right here. So when we like made the analysis of the riversides in Belgium, Vietnam, Brazil, it's a lot with a program of transport next to it and car infrastructure. And we believe that in some way, visually and non-visually, it harms the health of the rivers. So we think that a change in program here can do a lot. An example of this, or 2 examples that we found, are the Canal Corridor. This is a place with like a 600-meter long linear park. At first, like it's really important here. They want to celebrate the architectural heritage and make a place with a lot of biodiversity, because they believe that this is important. And when looking at the pictures, you can really see the vibe that we are trying to make with our strategy. Then you have a canal restoration. I'm gonna try to pronounce the name, the Cheon. And this is where they like opened up the river again, and where they definitely chose to make the car more important and focus on the people. And that's as well something that we would like to do. And I think it's very important to the riverside. Then for who is the strategy? We think that it's for a variety of people, and that also there is a strength for a strategy. So it's a place for all generations. Why? Because they can learn from each other, and we think that is very important. Because maybe you have older people who know how to work very good with woods or do creative things, but it is the younger people who know what people would like to have these days, except for like these cool phone cases, and they can learn and help each other to be relevant to the market, to the local economy, and at their point, like strengthening also the touristic vibe, which is very important for a local economy. Then also we like to focus on the artists and the people who have special talents, so they can perform and play themselves in the picture of everybody who is passing by. And then of course there is more the people who actually work with the local economy. So the craftsmen, because most of the time they're now in a little corner and people only see their end product or their final finished product. But we think that it's very important that is also the working process that is brought to the people. And that's where we come to transparency again, because then there will be much more appreciation for the people and for the product. And it will also trigger people to buy local because they see that they're actually like working really hard on it. So to cut it short, it's very important for the citizens who already live there, because their local economy will benefit from it, and they will also get more of an understanding of what is happening in their neighborhoods. But also for tourists, the place will be more interesting because they can bring nice souvenirs, and they will also have like a place where they can learn really good what is the culture of the city, and they know where to go when they want to learn about the culture. And then there is our city pass or a loyalty card that is very benefiting for the local enterprises, because people will come to shop by them because they get benefits from it. And we think that public management here is also very important because they should invest in this and really promote it with the people to go and shop with their locals. So as I, clear. Yeah. As I mentioned before, for the small enterprises, it will just help to attract more people to their stores, and it will give them a chance to compete with the bigger stores that are really taking control now. For the citizens, they will have nice infrastructure, a place to rest, and definitely a place to be proud of. And for the artists, we think that it's very important that everyone has a place in the city where they can be themselves and express themselves. And so for us, this building or this cultural center can really help to that. And then for the city, we think that diversity and vitality are two very important factors of making a city livable. And this definitely, or this strategy definitely helps with that, because there are so many people involved and so many people can benefit from it. So it will even attract more people. And then thereafter, new initiatives, extensions of our ID, and maybe different locations. We start with a little stroke or strip on the riverside, but it can definitely extend, and maybe with some pop-up ideas for in summer, you can even get closer to the water, like on these examples. And it can really be with really simple infrastructure. You can make nice places to sit and to stay, which will make sure that there will be even more places to appreciate the green strip or to watch to the local talents and culture. And I think that this picture shows really what we want to do with the strip. Like, it really makes a backbone for the cultural heart of the city, and a place where people can easily go and can see many different things. And in the upper image, you can see an example of the Chicago Riverwalk, where they made small places for little local entrepreneurs, and they got their own chance there for little money, but it attracted really well. And I think that's something that we want to do, that these people who maybe don't have the biggest chances or the biggest money also get their chance to be themselves and express themselves. And then we added 2 more examples of maybe how our strategy with some little adaptations can also work in different places. So for example, in the city, it can be like this example of your place at a table, and it's just a yellow strip that goes through the city all the way, just as we want to do. But at some places, it just comes from the ground, and it will form tables or playing elements, and then it just goes back into the ground, and it just follows the street again, waiting for another place or opportunity come up. And we believe that it can be the same for our strategy, where it can come up and be a place for a local artist to show their work, or have like this live museum thing. Another example is the GC Park, and we believe that we don't need like a canal to make our thing work. It can also be in the middle of a forest, like this, where you take away little places of green and put some small infrastructure, and then the pot will form itself, and people can go there to really escape from the city and be themselves. So to conclude, I think that it's very important for us to focus on these local people and really have eye for them. That was our strategy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I have a more detailed question. Oh, there is apparently about your cultural hotspot, as you presented it along the strip as a second step in the strip. What is the scale of your hotspot? Is it one hotspot per city, per neighborhood, or how do you see it? For instance, let's take Ho Chi Minh City. Would it have one hotspot, or?
I think our idea is to use the hotspot as a starting point, really to like catalyze things that are happening in the neighborhood, and that is a place that can grow and doesn't have a certain scale, because I think that there is too much talent in the city. Like, the place would never be big enough. The only problem is that not every talent, or that we don't trigger talent enough to come out. So I think it's a place that can grow and doesn't have to have a certain scale, and definitely not a max scale, because it can always grow and it can always get bigger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you see it as an event house, or a sort of a clubhouse, or an exhibition center?
We saw it as many of these things, just smaller rooms where people can come on daily basis to perform whatever they're good at. But also that's why we included like the grandstand in front of it. So you definitely have a place to maybe once or twice a year make a bigger event. And that's then also where the local currency comes in handy, because people who invested it during the year into these local people and local shops during the event, they can, for example, benefit from discounts or maybe free ice cream on the event. So you get really like this community feeling of during the year supporting the people, and then when they finish their work for a year and want to show it, you're the one who can like benefit twice, because you can look at it and you also have the feeling like, okay, I made this or I helped make this possible for him or her.
Thank you.
Maxime and Team 4, thank you for your presentation. Since Peggy has not asked the question about the funding, I will steal her question now. So as an investor, where should I put my money in? What am I sponsoring here?
I think that the money maybe is an important part as an investor. That's true. And I would say that you definitely have to invest in these local, smaller artists, because there is probably much talent going wasted. Because but I think the better, or rather than money, we should invest trust in these people and really believe in them and give them the feeling that they are appreciated, because money is not going to make everything for them. But I think when we encourage them to show their talent, then they will do, and it will the money for them will come itself.
Okay, that's a very nice way of thinking about it. And how can we support that then? How can we support the trust in the people and showing?
For example, like working at the cultural hotspot, there can be people who like go out in the city and just go to these smaller corners where the talent is happening, and maybe invite them for an open day at the cultural hotspot, and maybe like reward them for them or so, but really like trigger them and make it the yeah the drempel to lower it, to lower the threshold, to really bring it to the lowest level, and make sure that people just can come whenever they want, and do whatever they want. I think that's the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Maxime. Now that I know that you don't want my money, my trust you already have, okay?
And again, I have to thank you for a very clear presentation with very nice visuals. It was, although it was the first time that I saw this presentation, it was really clear. I could follow every detail of it. So thank you very much. Okay, I think we go to team 3 now. Christina, the floor is yours.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Christina. Yes, we can hear you and we can see the screen.
Okay.
Christina, you can start.
Yes.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So, okay. My name is Christina, and we are team 3, and we are going to present to you about daily life and hospitality. So, our team is, they call it CHA. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but we decided that this was fun and interesting, as it is very meaningful to us. They call it cha simply means they call it tea. Cha means tea in Korean, where in Swahili it means chai. In Vietnamese, it means tra. In Spanish, they call it te. So it's various ways of calling tea. We chose tea because tea is one of the common things culturally that connects people, from the Asian culture to the African culture to the European. It has become common that every family, or every now and then, when people gather around to celebrate, to relax, to enjoy, or to have some fun, or just to open up a day, occasionally one would take a cup of tea. So we thought that really symbolizes the spirit of neighborhood, which is our strategy. So our strategy is creating the spirit of neighborhood, and by linking it to the spirit of spending time and drinking some tea, a cup of tea with a friend or a stranger or a relative, we feel like it really works well. So which is why our group name is called, they call it just some tea time. So I'm going to take you through how we came up with our strategy, because this is the core part of our entire presentation. So in our group, they are like, we are, okay, let's say we are multicultural. So we decided to break down our strategies or our ideas based on our background and our different cultural setup, and from the city's point of view to the village point of view to the way of life, way of thinking, to the community life. So as you can see here, in Belgium, there is a very famous quote that says, better a good neighbor than a distant friend. So I'm going to give you this quote in the process, that sometimes they'll make sense when we'll go to the next slide. So you will see that the spirit of neighborhood runs in each and every culture, regardless of our differences. So in Belgium, you could see that they value the neighborhood than a distant friend, because there's some connection or some aspects of them that would come real, as I'll explain later. And then in Korea, there's a saying that says, never know who is living next door. But there's also another saying that's saying, you need to know your neighbor. So you would see that the spirit of neighborhood is essential in every society. In Tanzania, there's another famous quote that says, it takes a village to raise a child. So it doesn't take a one family, it takes the entire village to actually raise a child to become a better person, or a person of integrity, or someone that would really help the community. And then again, in Vietnamese, there is a saying that says, a stranger nearby is better than a faraway relative. So again, you'd see this spirit being emphasized. So let me get you clear to understand how are these quotes related to our strategy. So our story is based, I would like you to view our story from the eyes of a young person, a young family that is living in a city, a very young family that has kids, somewhat like that. And in this family, we want to create that spirit of neighborhood. We want to put the seed of caring, the seed of compassion, the seed of loving, which are the core values in creating hospitality, in creating better daily life in the society. Because like they say, charity begins at home. The same goes to values like politeness, sharing, and caring, which actually those are the concrete values when you want to create a better daily life or better quality of daily life in any neighborhood, or when you want to create something like hospitality, because hospitality, if we are to be honest, is not something tangible. It's rather intangible, but it's made tangible by the intangible factors. Okay, so when creating the spirit of neighborhood, this boy goes to school. So as you can see from the small note there, he's very excited, like, okay, today I'm going to learn a lot today. But why are we putting this up here? It's because in this, it takes a village to raise a neighborhood, as the first quote in this slide. The first place that your kid is going to learn after home is the school. So what spaces or what interventions are you putting from home, throughout home up to the school? That is where our strategy comes. So our strategy is somewhat like a pattern, like an Alexandra pattern, like a pattern of events or design solutions that connect one after another to create this spirit, or to create this sense of neighborhood, this sense of caring and compassion. So we have Like in Korean, they have kid cafes in the villages. They have indoor spaces containing playground. You know, kids and parents do their own gathering in the same place, and parents talk, which is very fine. So you would see that this starts at home, and then it goes to another level. So we went ahead into putting some examples. These are some of the examples you'd find in Korea, and some of them you'd find in Europe. We have mixed up the examples to show how this spirit works in each and every place, and how universal are they, such that when you collect them together, they would help us to realize this strategy. So in Europe, for example, playgrounds are also very good places for gathering parents when to talk or eat on the benches. You know, people can sit on the playground where their kids are playing. So again, if you want, I'm coming to the why, or to the how to create this spirit in the community. So how to create it could be through the playground. It could be right after school, the kids goes to the playground. This boy goes to a playground to play. That will happen. That happens in Europe. So, but we understand that there are some other cities where this is not something you can realize. For instance, where I come from in Tanzania, we don't have very many parks. We don't have very many good places for kids to play like here in Europe. But then there are strategies you can do to provide such services. This is where something like this comes in. This example is taken in Vietnamese, where if I look at this, it takes me back to my home country in Dar es Salaam, where daily life is part of the economic activities. But how about we made a collage of that market where the parents are working and their families stay upstairs. If you just put something like this for the kids to play along the way, then you don't really need a big place. You don't really need a park. You've already created somewhere where the kids could have fun, could meet and socialize, and somehow you have instilled the spirit of neighborhood. Somehow your neighbor would be helping you to look after the kids as you're selling your stuff here. So that's where it takes that village to raise that child. In Europe, for example, this is what is happening at most, and I've seen it. This is the park now. You parents are here waiting for, to watching your game. The kids are playing, but the parents, this is a platform for them to form some social interaction, to interact, to share their ideas, to share their views. So this is the way you create that spirit of neighborhood that we are referring to. So on the left side, you would see we have listed a very big parks, but why did we put them here is to show that you actually don't need all of this place. It all starts from a small seed, such as this, or such as just a small like this. And it starts from your child's life, from school to the way he moves from school to home, from home to the way he interacts with the people. So I'll take you through the second intervention that we are thinking that would help to promote the spirit of neighborhood. That is safety and support. From safety and support, we draw our strategy from the quote that says, better a good neighbor than a distant friend. Because a good neighbor would help you to feel safe and comfortable. A good neighbor would support you in times of need, would help you in so many other ways. So look out for your neighbors, but also people in need. This way you contribute to the spirit of neighborhood. So how to do this? You can create some neighborhood organizations. So this boy now grows up now and tries to create some neighborhood organization. In Belgium, we have seen there's an organization called Yes. This is an organization that youngsters are helped to develop better into better adults, and they do so many things in the community around them. In Tanzania, there's an organization called YMCA. It's a young Christian youth organization that helps them to do better in the community. So again, we come into summer. We are taking it big from the bottom now to a bigger. How can it be done in a bigger context like a city? So you'd see this is an example of Medellin in Colombia, where it's a very good example of a resilient community that has decided to invest or to do better into the infrastructure so as to give up the small space that they have that was used for car transportation as a public space for the community to gather or to spend some time. So, okay, this seems big, but if you start from a small seed, I think somewhere along the way you could get to somewhat a resilient seed like Madeline. So again, we thought of another idea that is in between spaces, how to get, before you get to such a big intervention, how can we employ this in somewhat that is already a big city like Brussels or Ho Chi Minh City. So we thought of in-between spaces that are commonly known as transitional spaces. How about the in-between spaces within the blocks where somehow the local people in that community could meet and spend some time? So this is just a collage again of a space that we have taken out some few apartments on the ground floor to make a public space for like a block lounge for everyone to meet or for everyone to sit and talk. That is where you get to know your neighbor. That is where if you're a stranger, you'd see someone who would say hi or would greet you, someone like that. But then these strategies, they could be spatial, but there's some other that are not spatial, are intangible. Like in Korea, for example, one of our group mates mentioned that in their village, when you're scared to walk back home, you could request for a safe back home service using a smartphone and they'll take you back home. You already see this is another aspect of hospitality. It's another aspect of safety in the community that makes the community feel safe, and that's how you encourage tourism to begin with if you are to promote this a good and resilient tourism. So again, there's some other strategies of making the community safe if you want to make a better community. So street transformation can benefit the community, not climatic wise, through their health and also through their local economy. So like you have seen here, this is a street intervention at Porto Alger. It's included some painted sidewalks extension to improve safety for the cyclists to walk as you go across. So if you borrow a strategy like that, and maybe you find a way to make it custom to the community in Ho Chi Minh City, or you find a way to make it custom to a community that is lacking such a service, somewhat like that could work. And there's also another one in Brazil here that it's creating a safer intersection for pedestrians on a busy road. And all of this, most of them are actually done by the community itself for them to pass safely. So this is another way of creating safety and security in a community, which is another essential part when it comes to hospitality and daily life in general. So again, we spoke about activities, or this layer of activities is mainly because daily life, if you have to define daily life is what you do every day. So it's your life itself, it's your way of life. So then it involves activities that you do as an individual. The central part of this slide is what I like the most. It's the Ho Chi Minh City. Again, this is the Tot Da Dam market. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. This is where the daily life happens itself, where you live at the same time. That's where the kids play. That's where everything happens. And that is where the whole value of hospitality you see here if you visit this place. So we thought of which ways to make it better without changing the authenticity of it, because that's what makes it unique. So these are some of the proposals that we make. Maybe just as a small organization of their products, or small organization of the places that they're selling could do without changing major and providing them better services. Maybe that would aid. So another way is of promoting activities that bring people together in this local community, so as to promote the spirit of neighborhood that we thought would vary in different places. So we have examples that work in Europe, we have examples that work in Asia, but the common aspect of it is bringing people together. So I'll start from Korea. So in Korea, one of our group mates again said, during these difficult times of Corona, some band played some music on their outdoor, on the balcony, just to encourage people to come out of their balconies to feel better, just to come outside. So this boy again is asking, okay, there's a famous singer living next door. Did you know that? Because this boy did not know about this famous singer. If this these young people did not take the initiative to bring the people outside. So it comes from the personal initiatives of the community. So this is another group of people in the community, the young people, and the initiatives that they can do to create the spirit of neighborhood and to improve the quality of daily life in their community. That's one example in Korea. So we come to another example here where local initiatives bring people outside to create a vivid neighborhood. This is in Europe. So in Europe, for instance, for people to get to know, there's a way where they put some special items or some personal items on the windows of their houses that speaks about the family. So when you walk across the street, when you see it, it tells you about the family, if they're dog lovers, if they're cat lovers. It's a small strategy, but it tells a lot about your neighbor. And that way it can start a certain interaction or a certain social way of cooperating or of, later on meeting or expanding the communication. And then when you go further, there is this convenient moment, just spending a moment with friends, neighbors, just small moments. It could be in the office, it could be in the neighborhood, and somehow then we thought, how should this happen? And we came up with this intervention. These interventions are quite minimal, but then again, they have a greater impact. So this one is in Brazil again. It aims at, we believe that people have the same rights in the city. So it could be transformation of places that are dysfunctional or are not used at the moment to create these public spaces where people can meet and sit and talk and have some time. And this is another example that again is a music collaborative group that is making music, but it's within the blocks. As you can see, it's just a convenient, like a transitional space in between the blocks where young people can meet and make music, and some ways of creating that spirit of neighborhood. Again, we have an example from Africa, Maputo, Mozambique, where a dysfunctional water fountain has been transformed into a public space for people to meet all together or to spend some time, and it's somehow shaded. So you can see at all these lenses that a city could be a place for everyone, and there is definitely some ways of creating attention or creating a place that everyone would enjoy equally. Again, on the other hand, there are several activities aside from the tangible parts. There are several activities, like I said earlier, that you can do, like a yard sale. This is a yard sale in Belgium where through a yard sale you get to know your neighbor. That's when you find out if your neighbor plays a piano. That's when you find out from the products that they sell, from the communication that you make. So there's several ways to bring this spirit of neighborhood. So our last slide is about a sustainable community, which eventually will lead to a resilient community. And from a sustainable community, we're starting from the point of Corona or COVID-19. So when you're touching a sustainable community, you're touching the young people, the elderly people, the adults, and everyone. So there is something that we're speaking from, a saying that is Vietnamese saying that says, close the gap between the poor. So why did we like this quote? We like this quote because in the light of COVID-19, the world has proven that with this pandemic, there is no gap between rich and poor. It affects all of us equally. So if it affects all of us equally, then we might as well join hands and create a better spirit of neighborhood to take it out and to live a peaceful life with each other. Because despite this gap, the rich need clean air, the poor rich need clean air, all of them need a clean environment and a better environment. So we are trying to create a better environment that would eventually promote resilience through tourism. So this is an example in Vietnamese where there is COVID online delivery services where they deliver masks, they deliver all the necessary products that you need to prevent yourself from corona. So there are some other examples that you can translate now, other than in the contents of COVID-19, that would promote better association in the community to bridge this gap, and at the same time to promote a better community that eventually would create a better interaction between the people and would create a sense of hospitality. So join hands, like you can do community projects like planting trees in the community. in terms of a city, there's a way you can plant vertical planting of trees of green in the city, like neighborhood and village without waste. It could be a slogan, neighborhood and villages without waste. So it could be recycling of bottles and using them to plant greens, to plant vegetables, somehow that is sustainable and somehow that helps the community. So another way again is to spread the message of unplastic. This was example that was given by one of our friends in Vietnam. So it sends a message to recycle, clean the ocean and to recycle the plastics all in one. So it's another way of promoting this sense of neighborhood, and at the same time to make our neighborhoods clean and smart and tidy and safer for the people that are living in them. So if we take it further, we are going to see another example in the Medellin, Colombia again. I like this case study very much. So they have gone further into painting the facades of their houses to create a beautiful neighborhood. So partly this gives them a value, an identity value, which eventually could be a heritage for this city. And partly it has improved the economic life of these people. Now it's flocking with tourists going there to enjoy the beauty of the street. And partly it has brought the neighbors together in the process when they were painting, when they're spending time to transform this. And this is 100% a local community initiative and a good governance to promote better local tourism and to promote better neighborhood in the community. So again, there are some other ways we can transform. This is also another collage in the city level now in Belgium, where this place, it's very typical in Europe, and we've seen it in Belgium, where the courtyards are now flocked with pavements. They're just not used and they're just left out. So how about you bring that green or that the nature into the space to make the space better for social interaction, so that it could be friendly for people to sit and talk and maybe have some tea and meet each other, somewhat like that. If you take this from a block level and you bring it on the street, if every person in that neighborhood or in that community would do somewhat like this local initiatives to bring green in the city, maybe that's a chain reaction that we advocating for. It starts from one person to another. It starts from a household to a block, to an apartment, to a street, and then to a neighborhood. And then it's a whole campaign to clean the city. So I would finish with this neighborhood. There are some other neighbors who have taken initiatives, public initiatives to take over the space, like pedestrianization of the street. So there are some measures that can also be taken under extreme situation or when it's much needed. And I think this is going to work best in the context of Brussels, where there's some streets maybe needs to be pedestrianized, so as to provide space for public spaces. It can also work in Ho Chi Minh City, just to promote pedestrianization. Not only makes the place healthier, where people can now walk or can use bikes, but also it helps the social interaction. People can now use the space as a public space instead of just as a street. So that's what we have for today.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you for your very passionate presentation and your very extensive presentation also. I'm going to ask only a very short question, and please, can you answer also in a very brief way? When we want to apply your strategy, what would be the first step to do as a designer?
When you want to apply our strategy, the first step to do as a designer is to spread awareness and information. So as a designer, the first thing would be maybe to put an information pavilion in the community, where all the community would get the information about that community there.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going also make it very short, so that pavilion is perhaps something I can invest in as an investor, or are there other things?
I think you can invest in the pavilion. You can also invest in maybe financing an app that if you are a tourist, you would need to know what type of community is this and where do you want to go, or where should I sleep. If you, all sorts of organizational help you can get from that app.
So if I invest in the app and in the pavilion, you can be a self-supporting strategy or a self-supporting community.
I think so. I think so because all the money that would be made from the app, or all the money that would be made from the pavilion information, or even if you build something like a street lounge for the people to gather around, again, that money will be put back to the community to make the community a better place. So it's something like a cycle where you put the money back to the community and the community gives it back.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick question? Me too. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. Yes, you know, I see, I mean, I was taking a look also to your Miro board and you put millions information and post it. So I think, I mean, I wanted very to congratulate for your passion and generally for the group as a way. It was a very, I mean, it was a very dense presentation. This is what I saw. But my question is like, I wanted to know if in all your materials, you maybe talked a little bit more about the relationships between the different stakeholders, maybe the public or the private, I don't know, because I see a lot of, you know, public example and case studies, but I just wanted to know if in your strategy, you have something like that.
Sorry, you mean the relationship between the stakeholders in the communities, in the public, the policymakers, and the, okay.
Yeah.
We thought about that too. So every stakeholder contributes, has a contribution to creating a better quality of life in the community. So for the policymakers, it would be to create policies that encourage the community or motivate the community to work together. So the policymakers, the policies are not just to implement, but to encourage the community to do it on their own. For the public, maybe their responsibility could be to, their contribution could be to, through this organization, these community organizations, through cleaning their own neighborhood, through doing what is best for their community, not just cleaning, making the, oh my God, how to put it, making the community a better place for everyone. That's a responsibility of every community. And for, oh, again, that's it. I don't know if I've answered you correctly because I didn't get your question clearly.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like, basically I wanted to hear you speak, talking a little bit more about this, and it's clear to me. Thank you. But anyway, congratulations again for your presentation.
I think we have to go to the next team because we're running out of time a little bit, but we still want to make enough time for all teams. So team 2, it's up to you.
Yeah, I don't think I can share my content.
We can see you, Mirte,
Yeah.
and we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now
Okay, yes, and your screen is starting to share. We can see the Miro board now. Good luck with your presentation.
Thank you. So yeah, we are team 2, and we did our workshop week around public space and nature. Our strategy that we chose for this week was pocket parks, and how we got to this item of pocket parks was by choosing the 3 strategies. And the first one was making green streets into the area. The second one was making arcades. So because of in Vietnam, there is a lot of people in the sidewalks and there is a lot of local economy. So we wanted it to be a safer spot for them too. And then the third was developing green areas. So with, for example, community gardens or food trucks. And we tried to pick those 3 strategies into one. So we started with pocket parks. And a pocket park is a small park accessible for public community, created on a single vacant building lot or on a small abandoned area in the neighborhood. So yeah, the main idea of our concept is a pocket park in the middle of a city to get more open and green public spaces for the local people, which give better healthcare, biodiversity that becomes better, and the life quality of the people too. I will start with a first case study. Here you can see in Shanghai abandoned space, and next to it is how it is evolved and how there became a pocket park out of it. I'm going to this page for a second because we tried to do this because we were looking at the overview maps, and if you can see here, there's a lot of buildings, and you can see quite difference in density between Brussels or the other cities. Although Brussels is really dense, there isn't that really dense than the other ones. There isn't that much green into the city, just like in the other ones, except from Pohang, because they're working there with a lot of green rooftops. So we wanted to have an idea. We wanted to create pocket parks also on the roofs. And because it's really dense in those cities, we tried to recreate the idea of pocket park into a pocket park in the air, but I'm coming to that later. So first we had some case studies about a getaway in the city. We wanted to create a really quiet space in a really busy city where people can go, and there's green spaces and stuff like that. And downstairs here you can see two case studies about the university in Vietnam and Bosco Verticale. We really like those ideas of putting green up in the air and making it like really quiet green area for the people that are living there. So we started with sketching a bit, and then we made a concept model. So for example here, so this would be a pocket park, but then up in the air. So the first one is a street accessibility for everyone, and then we have different layers which are supposed to be like everything that the community needs or the city needs. So for example, here in the first layer, you have a more walkable city, then a recreation, and the possibility to wild and busy streets. Also, the green rooftops can be a part of this pocket park that we wanted to create. And here you can see it again in another drawing that we made. We tried to find some places in the city where we could use, or where we could put them as pocket parks. So for example, in Brussels, you can see that there is like quite a lot of open areas or vacant parking areas, just like here in Bangkok. Where we could create those pocket parks, although it is more dense in Pohang and in Ho Chi Minh than it is in Brussels. But we found some problems, because if we want to do it on a between buildings where there are already buildings built, there are a lot of privacy problems, but with the windows that are looking out to the park, or if there are multiple layers, it's not that private anymore. So we try to make solutions out of that, for example, by making green screens before the windows. If we build new buildings, it's easier to make atriums in the middle of the building, so there wouldn't be any windows to the park side. Also, this idea with directed windows that are mirrors are really interesting, we think. This is a thing that we saw in Shanghai already, because here you have also like screens, and the screens are on one side empty, and on the other side is a mirror, so you can turn it and you can open it for the privacy, or you can close it. And then yeah, for who is it? We were thinking about if it's like a less dense city, it's easier for the local people, the people who are around that area, and by separating all those little pocket parks all around the city, all the local people from one area go to one park. So it's more separated, and not everybody is gathering in one place like it's now at the moment, but I'm coming back to that later. And also for people without a garden, it would be really interesting in dense cities, because then everything is really close to you, and there's a lot of green space close to your home. Why we chose this strategy is because we saw that there wasn't a lot of biodiversity in dense cities, so we tried to make a place for small biodiversity. We created microlimits in the middle of the city. Also, the quality of life we think was really interesting because we wanted to put the people on the first idea. Those people are the most important things in our whole idea. So easy access to the public green space, the noise cancelling, because if we want to create a pocket park, we can do it within 4 or 3 walls. So it would be noise cancelling and everybody can get a quiet time to hang around or to come into activities, to relax and gather with friends. And all these things are also good for the healthcare of the people. Yeah, so what I was already saying is here you have, this is a picture from last week in Leuven. It's a city in Belgium. And you can see that there's a big area or a big park where everybody is gathering. And we wanted to create those little parks all around the city. So it isn't happening again that everybody will go to one place. And even after COVID, it would be a better solution, we think. Yeah, also the adaptability for other countries. It's already done in Singapore and New York, so it's easy. And also the other case studies, so it's easy to adapt in every city. We have some airing surfaces, so how the air would go, and also with the different layers. And we wanted to make everything with green materials, so not concrete, but everything green. And here you have also some other things. For example, there isn't like that much space in really dense cities, so maybe it's an idea, or we were thinking about maybe the idea is to make pocket parks, but not in the city, but next to the water. Or in Brussels, you have the Akekai, and there is not that much green for the moment, so maybe we can add there a pocket park along the water. And yeah, that was it, I think, already.
Perfect. Thank you, Myrte, for a very clear presentation. Very nice visuals also. I can really see the added value of your pocket parks. Where do you want me to help you as an investor?
I think maybe now for the moment, if we are saying like, oh, we want to make a pocket park here or a pocket park there, not all the locals are really interested in it. So maybe to first make the start of that pocket park so people can see the value or the positive quality of it, so that they are thinking like, oh, maybe we can do it in our area too. I think it's really interesting to see how it's made for the locals, so everybody in the area can make it for themselves.
So kickstarting a reference project and then trying to inspire everybody else. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's clear.
Okay, Myrte, indeed, thank you for your clear presentation. You're going to make these parks for the locals, but are you also going to involve them? Are you going to make this a participatory process somehow?
Yeah, I think it's necessary to do that, because if there is a park and nobody uses it or stuff like that, it gets abandoned again. So it's not really a quality of the place anymore. So I think it's really necessary that people or the locals around can use it, or they make it more clear, or they need to use it for making it not used anymore. Because if it's not used, then it gets abandoned again, and it's really hard to make it revive.
And what about the design, Myrte? What about the design and the place, and choosing the place to make a pocket park, and the maintenance of these parks? Do you think that the community can be involved?
I think they can, but we were looking for some places around in the areas of all the different cities, and it's easier in Brussels, for example, to do that, because there are a lot of not used spaces or spaces that can be revived. But for example, it was really hard to find a space in Thailand, in Bangkok. And there we chose this one. So I think it's important for the local people around that they say like, oh, okay, this isn't used anymore, so we can make that out of it. Because, for example, this is now one with pockets with a parking lot, but maybe the parking is like used a lot, so yeah, it's not possible to make it then there. So I think it's really important that local people can talk and can have an opinion about where to put those parks.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, may I have a quick question, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank you for your presentation. The presentation in group 3, right? I have a question. In your opinion, what is the importance of green materials in public space? Because I see you show some example of public space you use in green material in Singapore, in Vietnam also. So I have the first question. The second is why, how do you think about the Vietnamese people? Why they prefer to use bamboo in the outside public space? Okay. Yeah, I have two questions.
Okay, for the second one, I'm not sure because the question was why they want to use bamboo.
Yeah, bamboo.
Yeah, I don't know, but we were talking in the group and on the workshop, and they said that there are a lot of Vietnamese people, and they really want it green. And if they go in the weekends or stuff like that, they go to the nature and they don't stay in the city. So we think it's important to put as much elements as we could into the city to make a quiet space and to make it like nature outside of the city.
And also for the tropical climate in Vietnam, the bamboo is very good for this kind of climate, tropical climate in Vietnam. Yeah, it's a very important reason.
Okay.
And how about the first question? My first question, I asked what the importance of green materials in the public space?
Yeah, we wanted to make as much green elements and green materials into public space just because it's yeah, it's a place for small biodiversity. Microclimates can start there, so we just wanted to have as much elements as we could into one green area.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for answers.
Can I have a question?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, thank you very much. Kind of very well organized information. I have a question in terms of strategy. Basically, our workshop is about more kind of staycation with some like current situation, some like pandemic issues there. So I think that is good to highlighting how local people or local residents enjoy their actual environment. I'm wondering, is there any adaptability or flexibility strategy? Usually open space has like something they can use very flexible programs. You know, sometimes we can have like some, how can I say, like street market, or sometimes they're gonna be concerts, they're gonna be sometimes like if there's a very emergent situation, there gonna be some like COVID test area or something, or some emergency area or something. So usually open space need kind of very flexibility in this kind of period. So in your kind of a strategy, can you like explain this kind of strategy reflected on your result?
Flexibility in the project.
Adaptability or flexibility in the open space.
Yeah, we wanted to work with different layers of pocket parks together, but I don't think it's really necessary to do it, for example, in Brussels, because there is more space to make those pocket parks. But for example, in Bangkok or in Ho Chi Minh, there is much more density in the city. So we wanted to work there with more different layers to create more green areas, and also on those on those different layers, different needings of the place itself. For the everything that is important for that city, we wanted to put on those different layers.
Yeah, so this was not very serious keyword in your team, right?
No.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I have a question. I think the pocket park, the concepts originated from United States long time ago, and most of the developed country already implement the pocket parks concept in the city. And you've on this your team already found the specific viewpoint to apply the pocket park in situation of the city. But one of the most important things I want to ask, how can you can get the land slot for construct the pocket park in Vietnam? Opposite side in the Belgium, in the Brussels, many vacants or the in between space in the city you can use, but in Vietnam the no vacation to use up for pocket parks. How can or what kind of the policy to exploit the land slot in urban area of Vietnam city? Do you have any policy?
No, we haven't really thought about that. But I think it's more of the idea. And for example, if there are no vacant building lots, we wanted to create more green little parks in the city itself. So not really a pocket park in between buildings, but more just alongside the river or in the middle of a building complex or something. But we haven't really thought about what if there are no vacant places.
Actually, I think if you want to exploit the waterfronts or the land slot along the river, the lake, if not the pocket park.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Such kind of green space. Yes.
What's the question?
Anyway, thank you for your answer.
Okay.
Mirte, I think with all your references and the vertical green spaces, that it also was already an answer to the question. The vertical spaces can work too. Thank you very much for your presentation. And now we're going to the final group.
Okay. My screen?
Yes. No. Yeah. Now we see your
Can you see
screen
my
and we hear
screen?
you clearly. Yes, we see your screen and we can hear you clearly.
Perfect. Well, you can?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can,
Okay,
Tyler. Good luck.
I'm having. Perfect, fine. Okay. Well, good afternoon or evening, everyone. It's been a very long session, so hopefully you're not asleep, especially our peers. World. But hopefully we'll get you to laugh a little bit and create a dynamic presentation for you. Okay, if we see this first image, the venue, have you ever spied on a wedding or watched a birthday party take place in a park? I mean, I do. I hope someone will. Most of us love Most of them love to watch others enjoy and celebrate all life events. These life events, the people participating in the event and us watching. This is why our team is Team Joy. Team Joy is a group formed by Nam and Tim from Vietnam, and from South Korea, and Magali, Kado, and me, Tyler, from Belgium. When we discussed how life events happen in our, there were some similarities, many differences, as we can see in these photos. These are different ways that weddings are celebrated in the first photo, we have a photo of Magali in the second, and me in the third. So, yeah. Having realized the value and beauty in each one of these cultures, we wanted to create our strategy of local tourism around these ideas. We wanted the strategy to celebrate and share the joy of each of our cultures. This is how we came up with color. Color. Community oriented, local. Color is a worldwide event planning strategy that makes use of local resources, human, non-human, or material, to celebrate weddings, funerals, graduations, in order to preserve, share, and make tradition. Its core values are authenticity and connection. It aims to join the old and the new, to pass the local heritage on from generation to generation. Its ambition is public platform and spaces for all to celebrate life events in and with local communities. The worldwide strategy is such as Color Brussels, Color Bangkok, Color Ho Chi Minh City, and Color Pohang. To deep the week, we created these questions that we wanted answers to. The structure was, why do we need color? How can we use color? And when we use color? And because color is sharing culture and traditions, we are all going to take place in Magali.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so now we will move on to why we need color. So the color strategy can be an enrichment in both a global and local way. A tradition is started on a local scale and is maintained by the community. At least it has been, because the world is evolving quickly with a huge gap between the old and new generation as a result. This strategy has the potential to reconnect different generations while sharing an experience where several ages will be present, like, for example, a baptism, as you can see on one of the upper pictures. It not only brings generations together, but it also makes communities become closer. That's why local people should be involved in organizing these traditional events. If a neighborhood brightens up now and then by creating a sort of temporary parochialization, like, for example, a street party, the inhabitants are more likely to stay home and enjoy their own environment instead of traveling abroad. By adding some drama to the area, the neighborhood becomes way more attractive. The color strategy aims to make events public, so the joy of these parties can be spread to passers-by.
That's also where social media comes in handy and traditions become global, because these platforms are ideal for sharing cultural experiences all over the world and saves recordings for the future. During this workshop, we realized that every country shares the same milestones and events in people's lives, but they are all performed differently.
Then the next question is, how can we use color? So to define this, we first did an analysis of one live event where we compared the traditions or rituals that are done by this live event for each of our countries. So we try to link these traditions to certain locations and define if these locations are public, semi-public, or private. Then we could see which one of these rituals can happen in a public or semi-public space. If the events can happen in a public space, a lot of different people can come together. So first we looked at Belgium, where there are some traditional things that are done. Most of them are semi-public or in a public space, as you can see in the table. If we compare this to Vietnam, then we can see there are more rituals of the wedding that take place in a more private area, and some of them also happen in a semi-public or public space. Then for Thailand, there are less rituals that can happen in a public space, but some of them can happen in a semi-public space. And in South Korea, the rituals are like evenly spread. So for all of the countries, it is possible to organize some of the events in a public space. And it would be an interesting thing to create maybe a digital space where the local traditions can be shared. So this way the events can all become public. Then on the next page, we go a little bit deeper into two examples to further define interventions that can be taken. The first example is Belgium. So we will see, for example, the signing of the wedding documents is something private. So that happens in the town hall. So that is a private location. However, the ceremony of the wedding can, for example, be held in a semi-public space or in a public space. So it can, for example, there can between buildings be a glass volume where the ceremony can be held. So people from outside, passengers, can look from a distance to this event. It can also be held in a park or on a beach or part of a beach, for example. Then it becomes more public. The throwing of the bouquet can also be done in public. Another example is providing infrastructure like long tables, for example, in spaces that are public, but that aren't very much used. This can be a permanent infrastructure, and then it also gives local people the chance to get together. But on the other hand, it can also be used for events like a wedding. Also infrastructures that can be placed all over the city, like a pop-up chapel. This is a temporary chapel that can be used for ceremonies. Or different paramount towers all over the city in different sizes, so it can be used for a ceremony or for pictures, or even if you have a bigger size, you can put it above a long table and people can eat in public, for example, or just come together in public. And then the last example is an infrastructure that mimics, for example, a church in a park. So you can have your wedding in a public space, but still have the feeling that you are marrying in a church. The next example is the example of Thailand, which Sana will further explain.
Okay. First, we will start with the private in Thailand that will have like engagement party and signing the wedding document that is set in the bride's house and the city hall. Yeah, and next we go to the semi-public that is set for event speech, cutting cake, and like throwing the boutique and after party in the wedding hall. Yeah. In Thailand, they will set the party in the almost in the wedding hall in the hotel, and in the public is the for morning event and the reception in the morning. Yes, and people can join in this space, which is family and friend of the bride and the groom. Yes, and next is who that Crystal will explain about it.
And I will see who can use color. We will look at who for and who by. First, who for. It can be a family, friends, or even strangers. Next is who by. In here, people who got high level of education, like university, college students, even event organizers, office or for the organization of rituals / support. Locals contain people and companies, governments, and volunteers. In the community, the younger generation, such as college students, adds energy to the region. One example is a cafe forgotten to order in Pohang City. The people working at this cafe are elder people with dementia. So even if you go and order coffee, you can get an omelette. However, customers visit this cafe because of this point. For such a plan to become a reality, the participation of the younger generation is essential. In particular, Pohang has a high proportion of elder people, and the participation of college students adds vitality to the region.
And we continue our presentation. We are going to find out where can you color. In Vietnam, we choose House Si Phương Alley, also now Trần Hưng Đạo apartment is located in Small Alley, District 5, Ho Chi Minh City, because this is the center of the area where the Chinese-born Vietnamese live. There are lots of associations that were built in Vietnam a long time ago, like Tuệ Thành Association, Ôn Lăng Association, Nghĩa An Association, and there are a lot of special items in the area. Now there are 200 households living in 66 houses. The government has a policy about restoration and preservation of the old alley. This is their own department with color of the old world, the mosque, the library corridor, sticking to the color of time that exists for 100 years with a sample type of color. It's also attracted to a lot of the tourists who visit it when they come to Vietnam, because it contains the culture interference between the Chinese and Vietnam clearly. We choose that place because some reason. The first, this is old alley that exists more than 100 years in Ho Chi Minh City. The second, a lot of traditional events and rituals happen in this space. The third, there are a lot of local business on the street, like a coffee cart at the entrance, hủ tiếu, traditional food of Chinese brought in Vietnam at the alley.
And now I'm gonna continue about this part. This is a residential area living in the alley. The alley is
3 meters wide and is located between 2 floors of the houses. A row consists of about 30 houses living side by side. The height of one floor is about 2 meters and 3. The concept is to renovate this area into the space to connect space. As we have analyzed the event will be of different frequency and opacity. How Sĩ Phương take on these two factors to able to organize residential connect activities. Take a wedding as an example to clarify the ideas. If the wedding takes place in here, the stairway entrance area can be a welcome area. The middle alley is a gathering space. This means the party will take place in here as well as an area that connects people together. And the rebate area is a house where take place the ritual and give salary and money to the right room, depending on the local features available in the area. There will have a lot of different activities which are offered every day and every time of the week to attract and connect residents and visitors. Therefore, after renovating the space, when the Mid-Autumn Festival and Dongwon Festival, two major events of the Vietnamese as well as the Chinese come display will become a place to display lanterns and perform the lion dance. In the LA, there are two prominent local economic activities, the hotel and coffee cart. After renovation the space, of course, these two elements will be retained and further developed to become a tourist attraction.
Okay, so I guess now we will move on to a Belgian example. So Belgians are known to be foodies, therefore we would opt for a combination between a food court, as shown on the pictures in the middle, and an event space on a heritage site. The tour and taxi site would be a perfect location in Brussels to support this type of color. While the event is going on, tourists and locals should still be able to enter the hall and enjoy a snack at the food stands, even if they are also providing for the event. The succession of stands should separate visitors from the event attendees and create kind of a barrier between those two groups. In that way, there is still a visual connection, so they can, so the joy can be spread.
Okay, and we're after of color. So we have heard all what we studied throughout the week, and now what? How spaces in our city could be used to spread joy by bringing people together and experiencing authentic traditional rituals. We have seen that color will happen even with difference between cities. This is because cities are unique and the people in each city are unique. Big cities will potentially have a creating spaces to be enjoyed by all people and cultures and trying to be accommodating to all the existing traditional rituals of the cultures the city is home to. To implement the strategy worldwide with local organizations. Hence, Color Brussels, Color Pohang, and so on. Colors of untraditional, abandoned, not used spaces in the city, such as parks, warehouses, boats, to be used to celebrate all types of life celebration and traditional to be used worldwide. We would love to think it could go viral. How this could happen is via social media. If big cities that we all know, as New York, London, Sydney, became color cities, it would be seen on social media. Could become interesting in having their own color cities. Color has the potential to be the brand of a city because it shows respect to the cultural traditions and rituals in the moment. A new take on space, on use of space, sorry. All cities worldwide could see the importance and richness of their own traditions and rituals and take. We hope that color could be the tool that cities use to shine individually because of their beautiful culture. By doing this, we hope that color the world. And that is the end of our presentation.
Well, thank you very much. This was a very nice end of our series of presentations. I really enjoyed the fact that you took us along heritage and identity through the tradition of a wedding celebration, but brought it further and made us think about traditions. And what I really like is the, I just say it, the double identity of your idea, that it brings you very close to people for a very, those rituals are very intimate. And on the other hand, you invite guests to explore the city and to have that memory and take it along on their journey or when they go home. But again, I'm going to ask the same question. What do you want us as investors to help you with?
We had planned that I would respond to questions, but because my internet isn't very good, I'm going to respond, just so it's clear.
Yes, okay. Has anyone of the group an idea of what we can invest in?
Caro, maybe, or Magali, can you answer?
Otherwise, I can try.
You can, yeah, Tyler, is it going to work or?
Yes,
I
Caro,
don't
we
know,
can
the
hear you.
connection
And
cut
Tyler,
out,
you...
Yes.
but I can try.
Yes.
Yeah, so we think investors can invest in an online platform for their cities. So if color takes off in their city, it will help improve the economy of the local businesses. So the investment into an online platform could be linked to the development and preservation of small traditional businesses of the area. And another way that they could invest is by investing in small, authentic businesses that are going to be involved in creating this table of quality. And then this quality brand that color businesses will be able to have. This will attract locals and tourists also, and it will be bringing economical gain to the businesses and investors.
Thank you. That looks like a good business plan already. Sounds as a good business plan. I don't know if anybody else has questions. Not really. That's a sign that it was a very clear presentation.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I think we wrap up for 20 minutes and then we come back to Cisco here. But as members of the jury, we will now decide on what project we will fund altogether, and we continue our discussion for that in Google Meet. I will post the Google Meet session here, the link to the Google Meet session here. in the chat. Okay.
So Peggy, the Google Meet is just for the staff, and students
Just for the staff.
can wait in
Yes.
Cisco, and we will have a short discussion, and then we will return to announce the
Yes.
result.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Thank you,
would like,
Peggy.
meanwhile, I would like everybody to ask to bring a glass and something to drink so that we can celebrate this final moment. See you in 20 minutes.
Okay. We'll be back in 20 minutes. Okay, students, stay there, take a glass, and we will see you. All right.
Okay, hey, hello everyone. I am Professor Seo from Korea. I think we have like something very interesting, something event in this week. Actually, in Korea, you know, this is the first semester of a new semester, first week of a new semester. So our student is like something, they say like a feeling like a final of the whole semester because we have a too hardworking, like something stay out whole night sometimes. So they were kind of very tough, but I think this is a really good experience. And also like, I think I was also very surprised how they can develop during the very tight schedule, but like beautiful, you know, visualization, strategy, and logical thinking. Some try to make interlink their concept idea and 2D, like something interesting diagrams. It was really interesting, and also all of our professors was very surprising and very stunning, you know, for your actually work. So it was really hard to select which team is the best. I think all of teams are best for each their own concept and process or everything, I guess. So anyway, I think this is a very important announcement for our actually achievement, right? So I think every team should pay attention, okay? Basically, we try to divide like best teams for each topic. I think you guys have a very special characters and also very unique your kind of product and outcomes. So we actually decide to provide all actually prize to each teams. So there is no first prize and second prize. No, we don't have that kind of concept. We have like we respect your uniqueness and the special actually outcomes for each teams. Okay, so I will give you. I will announce all kind of best prize. Number one, best concept for heritage and identity. Okay, hey, it's back. Ooh, yeah.
It's team one.
Hey, with the drum. Right? Okay, best concept for heritage and identity. Team one. Okay. Team one, yeah. They showed best concept for heritage and identity. Every professor agree with that, okay? So, okay, congratulations. Okay, next one. Best concept for daily life and hospitality. Best concept for daily life and hospitality, Team 7. Team 7, congratulations. You know, they show, yeah, I think their concept is like a very well fit, is like a rich, very rich daily life and hospitality in their proposal. Thank you very much for your work. Next one, best concept for local economy and activity, right? Best local economy, I think they can get the big money because of economic issues there, I guess. Anyway, best concept, local economy, Team 4. Yeah, Team 4. Okay, next one.
Không có đứa nào chụp ảnh à?
This is a prize for best concept, public and nature. Best concept proposal of public and nature. Come on, guys. Hey, no feedback. Come on. Best concept, public and nature, team 2. Congratulations, team 2. Okay. Next one is okay, best intercultural collaboration. Hey, best intercultural collaboration. This is also not easy. We have like 4 countries and also more than actually university there, right? More than 4 university there. There's a different culture, different background, but you guys successfully achieve kind of a good collaboration. So, okay, this prize, team 3 can get this prize. Okay, next prize is for, we are actually living in the very emergent situation in the pandemic season, right? So everybody, please take care when you go out in the public square and park, or everywhere has a virus there. So please keep your healthy condition. Anyway, this is a prize for Best Urgency Award, Best Urgency Award, Team 6. Okay, best urgency proposal. This is kind of very sensitive for the actually public security and safety issues there. Next one is best ambitious strategy. Oh, it's very interesting, and best ambitious strategy. Okay, we have only team 5 and 8, right? Team 5 and 8 remain there. So who will get the best ambitious strategy? Team 8. Congratulations. Okay, Team 5 has really good prize, best overall process strategy. Actually, this is number 1, I guess. So Team 5 gets the best overall strategy, overall process strategy. Congratulations, Team 5. So this is kind of a whole, you guys does not have this event, all was kind of the whole process was kind of beautiful. So Team 5 get last prize. Thank you very much for all of you guys, and we actually made a certificate of each prize with your own name, team name, and also there's a signature from the whole professors. So that's gonna be very fireworks! Come on! So late. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much there. So we will send all of the original copy of certificate to Belgium and Vietnam and Korea and Thailand. So they're gonna be really good for your certificate and also your career. I think we will also kind of give you the more extensive feedback from each professor. Today, actually, our schedule is too limited. Time was not enough to actually give you the good feedback. So each of professors will review again your product, and that will be really good kind of a recommendation and also like some like suggestion for future your work. So I think please wait for a while. And also some team of professor group will actually make a beautiful booklet for your outcomes. So please also wait to make a booklet and we will spread out our actually book to every country and every university there. Okay. Yes. So I think we need something like something. Well, I prepare some like closing comment, but I think we need some invites each of professors and just a short comment for students and this workshop event. So can I invite? I think Peggy, can you start? And you can just hand over to next professor. So short comment, okay?
My short comment is that, as I said before, when we started this, we didn't know what this workshop would lead to, but we are really stunned. We are really surprised because of everything that come out of it. I want to present a quote that comes from the Winnie the Pooh book. We didn't we didn't realize that we were making memories. We were just having fun. And I think that represents this workshop week perfectly. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Great.
I'll give the word to Pawini.
Yeah, Pawini from Thailand. Yes. Beautiful professor. Come on.
Thank you very much for let me join these wonderful activities together with all of us. I think the short period and the great effort for everybody, not only professor, but I see the student work quite hard and with the different time zone. And it is not only generate very impressive work, but it's also create the great friendships among each others. Thank you, you guys, to sharing a great time together. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Okay. I will
Different
pass
country, please. Different country, please.
Okay. Tuan, please.
Okay. Comment from Vietnam.
Yes, thank you very much for always support when we asking, and also thank you all the students that you work very hard and also can overall the language to have a very beautiful results. And I don't know what I should express my happy to see all the results, and I hope that we can have the more workshop and more Thai collaboration, and see you all soon, and happy. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So and last comment. I think we haven't enough time. So I think one comment from each country. I think that might be better. And I will actually have kind of one more comment for this workshop. Actually, I really appreciate all of you guys have a beautiful work, and I was also didn't expect this kind of quality of your final result. It was really amazing. Even like it was very hard to actually who is first or second or something. We cannot do that. However, I really satisfied and also like appreciate for collaboration with the different actually university, different country. This is actually really good kind of a collaboration and also learn diversity, right? Thank you very much. And also I want to leave this comment for Myanmar. Actually, we have a plan for 5 countries, but Myanmar cannot join because there are national issues. So actually, I heard some actually friends of us, you know, still like some against kind of very like sensitive issues in the country. So I hope next year we can all actually come together and also like good work together and build up the relationship for including Myanmar friend and professor together. So we will sharing all our actually recording movies to them, and also we will actually sharing our spirit of togetherness. So I hope actually they can get the actually good kind of a good condition. So thank you very much all of you guys, and